All right, hey guys, it's Robert. I wanted to do a video today about sleeping tips. Now, these are tips that you can use to get a better night's sleep, to get a more restful sleep, and to be just more effective at sleeping. A lot of people these days, honestly, just suck at sleeping. I know that probably applies to a lot of you. A lot of you found my channel for that very reason. And I've given these tips before. I kind of come back to the same tips over and over again. A few key fundamental pieces of information and tips that are just super solid advice for sleeping, but I often find that people don't take me up on it. People don't follow through. And I promise you, if you follow through with these things, you will get better sleep. Now, of course, there's variations. Maybe you have some sort of medical disorder. Maybe you have some sort of medication, something like that, that makes it more difficult for you. But in general, these tips are proven, they're backed up by research, and they will work to help you sleep better, okay? Now, just so you know, collectively, the behaviors related to sleep, the behaviors related to good sleep, are called sleep hygiene. Basically, if you have good sleep hygiene, that means you're practicing good behaviors in relation to helping yourself sleep. Now, a lot of this comes down to learning, memory, and association. Your body as a human, you're really good at associating things. You learn to associate certain locations, certain times of day, certain external cues with internal states, with thoughts, with memories, with all these different stuff. Your body's really good at taking this thing, pushing them together and making an association. You've probably heard of Pavlov's dogs. That's the classic experiment that describes classical conditioning, which is a form of association. Basically, Pavlov had dogs. He would have them salivate by giving them food powder, which would make a natural salivating reaction. Then eventually he would pair a bell sound or a tone with the presentation of that food, so that eventually, once the dog heard just the tone or that bell, they would start salivating in anticipation of the food. Same thing happens with a lot of your dogs or cats. When you get like a crinkly bag, they come running like a bat out of hell because they expect that food to be coming, that treat, whatever the case may be. Now for you, this also happens with sleep. It also happens with other things as well. So for instance, have you ever noticed that when you have to go to the bathroom, when you have to pee, it gets way worse when you're actually in the bathroom. Almost the closer you are to the toilet, the more you can't hold it. Same kind of thing can happen with your sleep in a good way. So you can kind of exploit your body and your brain's tendency to pair things together to make those associations. So a lot of it comes down to that. So one tip in that regard is you should be associating your bed with sleep. Basically, in my opinion, there are two things you should be doing in bed. One of them is sleeping, the other, I'm sure you could figure out. And when you do things other than sleep in your bed, you actually weaken that association that your brain has between the location of bed and sleep. So for instance, a lot of you guys like to sit in bed and use your phone. You like to sit in bed and work on the computer, watch a lot of TV, read, do all these other things in bed. Now, I'll talk a little bit about how you can use some of those things to actually help you with your sleep. But in general, you want to be, on the whole, avoiding using your bed for other purposes. This is something that a lot of people get into trouble with. They spend all day in bed working on the computer, and then they try to go to sleep, and their body is just still in work mode, because you've learned to associate bed with these other things, whether that's something exciting, something boring, something stressful. Basically, you just want to clear the playing field and only associate your bed with sleep. Now, obviously, this is a little bit extreme, especially if you're a college student, or maybe you're renting a room somewhere and you don't have a lot of other space to go. But ideally, try to only spend time in bed when you are sleeping or when you are doing other, activities. Now, another one is to have a consistent routine. This is something a lot of you guys probably know already, but it's really good to have a consistent routine because it teaches your body that when this sequence of events happens, you're leading up to sleep and you can expect for sleep to happen. You see this a lot in infants or babies, for instance. You have a consistent routine. With my son, when I put him down for his nap during the afternoon, for instance, we eat lunch, we walk upstairs, we sit down on the floor, I read a little bit of a book to him, I turn on his fan, I pick him up, put him in bed, give him a stuffed animal, cover him up, walk out the door. There's a very consistent routine, and sticking to that routine really helps him to understand that sleep is coming. Same thing at the end of the night. We watch Jeopardy. When Jeopardy's over, I turn off the TV, and even right when I turn off the TV, he goes, oh, jumps out of the couch, starts walking toward the stairs like it's time for bed. So he knows that those events lead up to sleep. So having a consistent sleep routine is super, super, super effective. And it doesn't really matter too much what it is, but just making it consistent. So for instance, for me, it's always doing the dishes, preparing coffee for the next day, setting it up so that it automatically brews in the morning, going upstairs, taking my contacts out, going to the bathroom, brushing my teeth, washing my face, taking my inhaler because I have to take a steroid inhaler at night. And then I lay in bed and I actually play on the iPad for, 10, 15 minutes. Now, there is some debate about whether devices in bed cause you problems with sleep because of the type of light they give off. It's not proven yet. There's some research out there. I tend to think it's BS. Even if there is an effect that keeps you awake, what's more powerful than that is the power of routine. So I don't do things that are like exciting, things that are, I'm not connecting to the world through social media or anything like that. I use the iPad only for playing one specific game. Now that game changes over time. It used to be Hearthstone. Right now I'm playing Marvel Puzzle Quest. But if you stick to the same thing, so maybe reading the same book or playing the same game or doing the same exact thing every night, your body will really learn to associate that routine with sleep. So for me, I open up Marvel Puzzle Quest and I start matching things. And within 10 minutes, I'm hardly able to open my eyes. Last night, I actually dropped the iPad on my face because I kind of fell asleep while I was playing. That means it was time for me to go ahead and close my eyes and go to sleep. So it's all about sticking to a consistent routine. Now, the other important point with this is if you have something like you're playing a game on the iPad or reading a specific book or doing, a crossword puzzle, whatever it is that relaxes you, you only want to do that during that time when you're going to sleep. So I don't play Marvel Puzzle Quest outside of bedtime. Actually, if I do, I've noticed I've trained myself so well. Like if I play it in the middle of the day, I start getting sleepy because I've trained that association so strongly. So you can use that association as a powerful tool. So I encourage you to do something similar. So have your bedtime routine, whatever that is. Maybe you sit on the couch, read for 10 minutes, go upstairs, wash your face, brush your teeth, lay in bed, listen to whatever, and then go to sleep. It's going to look different for everybody, but the point is stick to something consistent because then you could really train your body to get more and more and more tired. That's why I mentioned that toilet thing, like when you have to go pee and it gets worse and worse the closer you get to the toilet. The same thing can happen when you train your body to associate bed with sleep and also this routine for sleep. As you go through your routine and you get closer and closer to the bedtime, your body starts going do, 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 do. And then you're like, oh my God, just let me get in bed. I want to go to sleep. So it can be a really powerful tool. So next tip is to give yourself a cool down period. And what I mean by that is disconnect from the world for a bit. So put your phone away, put your computer away, get off of social media, stay away from the internet, stay away from the news, stay away from email, disconnect from the world for a bit, unplug. And this will help you because you really need to transition. If you think about it, as you're going through your day, you are so connected. You know what's going on with your friends. You know what's going on in the state of the world. You know what's going on at the E3 conference or whatever you're interested in. Your mind's in too many different places at once. And what you can do is give yourself a little bit of time. 30 minutes is fine. Give yourself half an hour to just unplug, to get away from that, and give yourself a cool down period before going to bed. Again, any one of these things, they're not completely necessary if you sleep well already. But if you're having trouble sleeping, that's when you're going to want to implement these things. Even if it's inconvenient, this is something that you could do to invest in yourself to get better sleep. So unplug. This is a great time to do some of those, non-electronic activities like reading or, and a Kindle reader is fine. Reading on the iPad's fine. The point is disconnecting from the world, right? So reading, doing crossword, knitting, working on art, whatever makes sense to you. Those are things that be relaxing to me, but it could be different for you. Journaling, that's a great time to do that. Basically unplugging, getting away from the world for the last half hour. If you can't squeeze in half hour, give yourself 15 minutes. Just give yourself some sort of transition so you can, get away from the world, transition into sleep mode, be in your own space for a bit. And on that note, another tip that I would have for you is get your phone out of the room. A lot of times you don't need your phone in your room. We associate so many different things with our phones, whether that's, talking to friends, connecting on social media, whether that's work, whether that's worries about getting called by, people for bills or taxes, whether that's worries about your parents calling, whatever the case may be, we associate a lot of different stuff with our phones, and they're not exactly relaxing, restful things. there's no reason that you need your phone in your room. It really, really interrupts a lot of people's sleep. Because what happens? When you can't sleep, you turn over, you flip through your phone, right? Or as soon as you wake up, you turn off your alarm on your phone and then you're straight to email or social media or something. Basically, you're just setting yourself up to be distracted. You're setting yourself up to see some bad news or be worried about something or, just check something that you don't need to check. You don't want to get yourself in that state. So you can just get your phone the hell out of the room, right? That's what I've done for years now, and it's so helpful. They still make these alarm clocks that, they're just a digital alarm clock. You can set the time and it'll wake you up at the right time. You don't have to use your phone for that. And you don't have to have your phone in the room for emergencies. Like maybe you set a do not disturb thing on your phone that only certain people can call through and it's really loud outside of your door and then you could hear it if you need to. Or you can do what I do and just get a flip phone from the grocery store, just like a little burner phone, and only give that to people who need that number in case of emergencies or if you need to call 911 in the middle of the night. So no one's going to use that, but it's there just in case you need it. So you have that, peace of mind. But you don't need the phone in the room, and it does weaken that association to bed, like I said, and you have so much emotion tied up into the phone. I know you guys don't feel like you have a lot of emotion tied up into your phone. It doesn't feel like you feel super strongly about it, but just think, when you walk out the door and it's not in your pocket, you realize you're a block away and you don't have your phone with you, how do you feel? Like, it's like the end of the world, right? You're like, shit, God, I got to figure out how to get back home. I got to get my phone. I can't, you can't go to work without having your phone. Even if you technically don't need your phone at work, you can't do it mentally. So there is a lot of emotion tied up in your phone, and you don't need to bring that into the bedroom with you. And my last tip is an interesting one. This is for people that have a hard time falling asleep. So just getting to sleep in the first place, it takes forever. This is something that characteristically has been a problem for me. Throughout my whole life, I've had a really hard time falling asleep. I've hated falling asleep at times. Like, I love being asleep, but I hate going to sleep. But recently, like the past probably year or so, my sleep hygiene is great. It's on point. I've been practicing all these things that I'm preaching. And now it's like I finish up, usually my nights are I work, I make videos, do whatever. Then I give myself, maybe an hour to play League of Legends or some other game. Do my nightly routine that I talked about, do the dishes, set up the coffee, go upstairs, play on the iPad for 10 minutes, and then I'm out like a light. And that's great. But for those times where it doesn't work, there's a good tip. So if you're having a really hard time falling asleep and you're spending time just rolling around in bed, staring up at the ceiling, checking the clock over and over again to see what time it is, get out of bed. So actually leave your bed, go do something else for a minute. Something that's, again, not super exciting, not super energizing, nothing that's stressful. Just go do the same thing you would do during your cool down period. So I've done crosswords, I've, journaled, I've, drawn pictures, whatever the case may be for you. Do whatever's relaxing and unplugged. Do that for 10 minutes and then go try again. It's a really weird tip, but it's actually really effective. And it's surprising for a lot of people that when you just leave bed and try again, you can get to sleep sometimes. And you can do it, 2 times if you need to. If you need to do it again after it didn't work for the first time, you find that you're laying in bed for a half an hour again and you're not asleep, try it again. But there's something really powerful about just not fighting that fight, because you get in this stupid battle of wills with your sleep sometimes where you're just laying there and you're like, okay, 1, 2, 3, sleep. You're not going to sleep harder. That's not going to work. So sometimes you just need to get that separation, give yourself a minute to do something else, let yourself kind of feel tired, like, okay, I just want to get back into bed, then go back into bed and feel refreshed, go to sleep. So those would be my tips for you. If you have any tips that work really well for you, feel free to share them in the comments. And, I really, really, really do challenge you guys to try some of these things out. Again, if your sleep is great, don't worry about it. Keep doing what you're doing. You don't need these tips. But if your sleep sucks, try not to be stubborn. Try to use some of these tips and just see how it works out for you. I would love to know how it works out for you once you do start trying some of these things. So please let me know.